In this video, we're going to talk about table relationships in Microsoft Access. Now, here we have a simple database, and this is actually some of the tables that come with the Northwind Access database. When you buy Microsoft Access, it comes with it. Notice how we have the customers table, and then we have the orders table. Well, of course, we can make multiple table queries, and I have another video about that. But we can do the relationship at the query level, or even at the report level, or at the table, at the form level. However, when you do it at the database level, it'll carry through the entire database, so you only have to set it up one time. And then, if you ever had a query that used both of those tables, the query would remember what you set up on this screen. So I like to do it at this level, and there's some additional choices that you need to know about as well. So in this case, I'm going to pick on Database Tools, and then I'm going to pick on where it says Relationships. Now, when you go into the screen on your database, you might see boxes and lines all over the place, but this is how they were created, or this is how you're going to create them. In this case, I'm going to pick on Show Table, and that'll show a list of all of the tables in the database. You can pick as many as you wanted to here. In this case, I'm going to pick on the Orders database. Actually, I'll pick on Customers, and I'll pick on Orders. Now, you can keep on picking on as many as you want to, like I said. I'm going to pick on Close. And we see both of those tables there. These windows are called field lists. Now, notice how there's a key next to the Customer ID field, and notice how there's a key next to the Order ID field in this table. That's because those fields are the primary keys of those tables. Now, when you're joining those tables together, you're looking for a common field. I'm going to pick up now it doesn't have to have the same field name, although it's always very helpful when it does have the same field name, but they have to have the same data type. Now in this case, we can see there is a common field that's called Customer ID. So I'll pick on Customer ID, and I'm going to drag it to the Customer ID over here on the order side. And then when I lift my finger, this new window will appear. Notice how it's using the Customer ID from the customer side, and it's using the Customer ID from the order side. Notice down here it says one-to-many. That means one customer can have more than one order. The reason that it made it a one-to-many is because the Customer ID happens to be on the customer's table. It happens to be the primary key. So that means, one customer can only be in there one time. A specific ID can only be in there one time. But the Customer ID is not the primary key on the orders table. So one customer can have many orders. That's why it says one-to-many there. Now, if the Customer ID was the primary key on both tables, then the relationship type would say one-to-one. If the Customer ID was not the primary key on either table, then it would say indeterminate, or some databases call that many-to-many. But in Access, it would say indeterminate there if neither if the customers table or the orders table didn't have the Customer ID field as the primary key. So that's what relationship type means here. It's one-to-many because it is the primary key in the customers table, but it's not the primary key on the orders table. So one customer can have many orders. Now look at these choices over here. These are optional. Let me explain what they mean. I'm going to pick on Enforce Referential Integrity. Now that means it would be okay to have a customer in the customers table that doesn't have a corresponding order, but that would not allow you to have an order that does not have a matching record in the customers table. Okay? So let's say the customer ID is 123. It would be okay if 123 was on this table, but not over here. But when we check this box right here, it'll prevent us from having customer ID 123 here that doesn't have a matching record over here. Now, when you pick on that top choice, the next choice lights up as well. Cascade update related fields. What that means is, let's say the customer number is 123, and they have some related records over here. Well, if I change it to 234 over here, it'll change the corresponding records over here. So the change will cascade through the corresponding records in this table. Now here it says cascade delete related records. That means if I delete customer 123 from the customers table, it'll also delete the corresponding record in the orders table. Usually when you pick one of those, you pick all three of those, okay? So they all kind of go together. These are just options. I'm just kind of explaining what the options mean. I'm going to click on Create. Now notice that how it actually shows you the one-to-many customer to orders. I'm going to double click on that line, and that'll bring us back to that screen again. There it is. Now you can see the different choices here. Here it says one-to-many. Now also, I'm going to pick on something that's called the join type. Now the top one is what we call an inner join. That means it's only going to show the records that have a match on both sides. So I would have to have a corresponding customer that's also in the orders table. The second one would show all of the customers even if they don't have a matching order record. That's called a left adder join. So let's say there was a brand new customer 345 in the customers table, but they did not have a matching order in the orders table. That record would not show up for the first one because it's not on both sides, but that new record would show up on this one because that's going to show all of the customers even if they don't have a matching order. It's called a left adder join. And then over here, this would be a right adder join that would show all of the orders that don't have any, even if they don't have a matching customer. Now in this case, there wouldn't be any orders that don't have a matching customer because we said enforce referential integrity. So actually that one would not even apply in this situation, although sometimes it does. But anyway, that's what the join types mean. I'm going to click on OK, and the way I got to that screen was join type. So I'm going to click on OK again, and then we have the relationship between the tables. I'm going to close that window, and we'll save the relationships. Now let's make a query out of those two tables. I'm going to click on Create, and then Query Design. I'm going to use the Customers table, and I'll use the Orders table. Notice how it remembers that relationship that we set up at the database level. So that's why I like to go and do it in the database level, because that way it'll be remembered anytime we use those two tables in a query or a form or a report. So that should give you some good information about your table relationships here in Microsoft Access.